Alright, so this is a bit of a follow-up video to my lightest and quietest Cinewhip video from last week. A few of you on Instagram were complaining that these motors, which are very good motors, high quality motors at $15 each, are too expensive for something like this, and we're looking for something a bit cheaper in terms of putting it together, and maybe finding the parts might be a little bit easier. And I did a little bit of digging and kind of thinking about what could be cheaper to build that would be of similar quality to this, and I did come up with something. And it is something you've seen before on the channel. Here's what the final build looks like. This is essentially a Happy Model Crux 3 that I inverted and added the prop guards to, and I obviously added the 3D printed parts to hold the FPV camera and the GoPro, but this is pretty much stock. I didn't really change a whole lot here. You're going to have to make some settings changes in Betaflight, so if you do happen to have a Crux 3, you do have to get these prop guards, which by the way are cleaned out right now, and I think Banggood had hundreds of these, and they're now all out of stock on all the colors. I think it's because of this video here. So you're going to have to wait to get these prop guards, which are about $5 for 4, and probably end of January, or I think sometime after the 22nd, I believe, they're going to come back in stock, is what I'm told. But yeah, you're going to need these prop guards, you're going to need the Crux 3, you're going to need these 3D printed parts, and that's it. This is what this basically looks like. It's 59 grams, it's even lighter than before. And there's obviously a ton of stuff here you can cut out that you could reduce the weight even more if you wanted to. But yeah, I'll talk about that, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that because I think I'm totally satisfied with the way this thing flies. Stock tune and everything. I mean, a couple of tweaks, I'll talk about that later in the video. But I flew it on this 450 2S battery. Same one that I flew the other one over here that I built a custom build. And I'm getting even more flight time now because we're running slightly smaller motors here. These are the 1202.5 at 6400 kV, so slightly lower kV. So in 2S you're going to get even more flight time on this 2S 450. I get close to 5 minutes of flight time on the setup carrying the naked GoPro, of course. So this whole setup here like this, I'm getting 5 minutes of flight time just like this, with a pretty much stock tune in the Crux 3. Obviously you're going to have to make some changes in Betaflight because it's inverted, so you're going to have to change the board orientation so it's rotated 180 degrees on the roll axis. That's flipped over, it's inverted. You're going to have to swap the motor positions in the CLI because the motor resources are not going to be reversed. So motors 1 and 3 are going to swap positions, and motors 2 and 4 are going to swap positions. And so in the CLI up, you're just going to put it up on the screen here, which you have to paste into the CLI to make the motor swap. You have to see the board orientation has to be rotated 180 degrees on the roll axis. In terms of the PID tune, I left the same PIDs in there. I did turn DMIN off, so that should help with the Cinewhip. I did turn off air mode because if you're flying this indoors, you're not going to be doing any acro, so air mode is kind of useless and you're not going to be running zero throttle. It also helps when you bump into stuff, so turn air mode off. If you want, optionally, you could turn on RPM filter and all that, but I just would leave it alone. Just for those of you guys that don't know how to do that, just leave it alone. It's not going to make that much of a difference. You might get a little bit more flight time on 48 kilohertz, but it's maybe like 20 seconds. I did raise the anti-gravity gain. I think it was from 5 to 10, I believe. You might even want to raise it more. That does help with the stability on the low throttle and keeping it so it doesn't bounce up and down a lot. And everything else is stock, same stock props. You obviously will have to flip the props over, so don't forget to do that. I didn't change the motor direction, so the props were reversed in terms of the stock setup. You could probably reverse them if you want. I just I wanted to do like a really quick conversion, so I did not even change that. I just left it totally the same. Obviously, the stocks the props are reversed in this setup here. So when you put the props back on, they make sure that they are flipped over, but then obviously they're pushing the air down and not the other way around. So in terms of putting on the prop guards, again, you're going to want to put them on top here like this. I did instead try to move the motor down a little bit here, and the camera's not going to cooperate here. There's a small spacer there that I put between the motor and the carbon plate. So just to push the motor down a little bit, you're going to probably want to use some sort of a spacer, find something 1 to 2 millimeters that will basically push the motor down away from the arm a little bit. And you can see that I didn't even push the prop on all the way. There's a gap there as well. That's so you can keep the prop spinning in this space right here so that it doesn't get up too high and hit the prop guard here at the top. So I did make a little modification to the tray for the GoPro. You can see there's cutouts there for the 2 little legs that are going to mount the Caddx Ant camera. That isn't on the first version that I put out in the first video. You can see I just stuck the camera on the front there with some VHB. So if you want to use, this is obviously the stock camera. If you use this camera, you'll need some way of mounting that, and it's just hung underneath the tray like that. Seems to be fine. The cord here is quite, it's right at the limit here, so you may want to lengthen it if you want, but I didn't do that. It's just basically stock. I didn't touch that at all. So this version here is the one with the built-in FrSky receiver and built-in video transmitter. So obviously your range and stuff isn't going to be that great. There is a Crossfire version of this and like an XSR version, I think, if you want to get a version with a receiver attached to it already that doesn't use the built-in receivers. There's, I think, versions for that one. I don't think if you get the FrSky version like this with the SPI receiver, you can convert it. I might be mistaken on that. If you guys know the difference between the receiver versions and this one here, let me know, because I don't have that version. I only have this one with the FrSky SPI receiver. Now, people were probably going to ask, well, are these 5 amp ESCs going to be able to handle the weight? And it is an additional, I don't know, probably 30 grams or so, plus the, I guess 30 grams for the printer parts plus the GoPro. So I don't know. I don't remember the weight of the Crux 3 by itself. I have to go back and refer to that video. It'll be linked in the description. But just the drone by itself, if you're flying without the GoPro, is 59.07 grams. And then with the 2S450, it's going up to 86, about 86.9 it looks like. And then with the naked GoPro now, we're at the all-up weight here is 116 point, no sorry, 118.00, so 118 on the nose total weight. So this is definitely heavier than the Crux 3 by itself. So you're basically adding the weight of the naked GoPro, 3D printer parts, plus the prop guards. And I did fly it a few times already, and it seems fine. The motors aren't getting hot. It didn't even feel like it was struggling really, because it's so light anyway. I did fly it outside in a little bit of wind here and there. It's been okay so far. So I would just say that if you are going to be doing this conversion, don't do any like racing or serious acro with it, or even light acro. Stay away from any kind of acro where you're doing like dives or flips and rolls and that kind of stuff, because it's going to put too much stress in these 5 amp ESCs. You're probably going to end up popping it because of the extra weight. So I'd say don't even bother trying, just to be on the safe side. This is really meant for something like an indoor sort of use, cinewhip flying, slow, indoors, not a lot of stress on the components. Then you should be okay for some of this. If you're just doing like calm cinewhip flying, I think the 5 amp ESCs should be able to handle it. But if you're going to be doing like some aggressive type of flying, you probably want to go with the custom build and go with a bigger ESC, like a 15 amp or 20 amp ESC, just to be safe. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for this video. Let me know if you guys think that there's a better solution to this in terms of finding something that's even cheaper, because this is pretty inexpensive. It's like less than $100 just for the parts. Basically, the Crux 3 I have here is like $95. Depending on where you get it at, it might be even cheaper with coupon codes. I've seen this as low as $80 on flash sales. So maybe if you want to wait for it to come on flash sale, keep checking the links later. It might even be cheaper. I think it was during the Black Friday sale. I think it was like $81.99, I believe. This thing, yeah. If you were able to snatch it up during that sale, it was a pretty good deal. plus the prop guards are only like $5. So yeah, it's under $100 if you just pay full price for this. And then you just make the changes I mentioned here in the video. Pretty simple, really. It's got built-in receiver, video transmitter. I mean, you know, that's probably why it's lighter, is because it has the Crazy Bee, whatever that, the Crazy Bee X board. That's the one with the built-in video transmitter and receiver, which, you know, basically makes it a lot lighter. You know, you could clearly make some more changes here to make it lighter, like cut the ducts off here in these spots, which, by the way, they are touching each other. They're actually pressing up against each other, so you're probably going to want to cut those off anyway, right here where they're touching in the center, because the frame here is a little bit smaller dimensionally, so the motors are a little bit closer. I mean, right now the prop guards are kind of, you know, hitting each other, but there's such a gap there between the end of the prop that, you know, it doesn't really matter so much, and it does kind of warp it a little bit, but it makes no difference in terms of flying and in terms of the footage. But, you know, you might want to cut off the prop guard here up to where it, you know, touches over here. So at this point here on the inside all the way to here on all four, and that's going to probably reduce your weight a little bit more. Obviously the frame is probably maybe a little bit too thick, because it's more for like acro flying. You could probably make it thinner. So if you're like, you know, half a mile, if you're listening and you're going to be building something like this, or maybe converting it, maybe use a slightly thinner plate here to reduce the weight a little bit more. You can get rid of this tape here that's holding the motor wire. That's really unnecessary. You could get rid of the plugs for the motors. They cut off, basically shorten the motor wire, cut off the plugs, get rid of the plugs on the flight controller. That is a little bit more challenging. Oh yeah, I did also change these screws here. So they came with these silver screws that are a bit longer, so they could hold on to canopy. Since there's no canopy on here, that's unnecessary. So to reduce the weight even further, I used two shorter metal screws here, one here and one here. And then I used two nylon screws on the sides. So there's a nylon screw here and a nylon screw there. So that did drop, I think probably saved a gram doing that. But yeah, just there's a lot of places where you could probably save a little bit of weight here and there. But I'm just gonna like leave it the way it is. Obviously you can go with a lighter camera as well, but it seems to be fine for what it is. Now, by the way, I did use the stock props here, the bi-blades, and people were saying that you're gonna have better control with tri-blade props, which I did switch to on the custom build, and it does feel like you have a little bit better control with the three-bladed. Weight does go up a little bit. It's about 1.5 grams more going from the two-bladed prop to the three-bladed Gemfan prop. So keep that in mind, just a little bit more weight, but you're going to have a little bit more control on the three-bladed prop. Flight time seems about the same, by the way. I can't really see that much of a difference in flight time, because I think as long as you're flying efficiently and not too fast, it should be about the same flight time for you from two blades to three blades. And again, it's kind of like personal preference of whether or not you're gonna want the two blade or the three blade. If you want to go for lighter or slightly heavier but a little bit more control. So that's kind of a personal preference type of thing. Anyway, that's good for this video. Links to the stuff down below, and I'll talk to you guys the next time.